Celtics fans, the offseason is here, and we are going to have you covered with nonstop Celtics coverage. So be sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that subscribe link below. Also, we are going to be going live every week here during the offseason. So be sure to turn on your notifications so you know when we go live. Our first live show is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I am Will Scott. You are watching Celtics Today. The Celtics season came to a conclusion last night in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The C's coming up short of being the first team ever to rally from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA playoffs. They fell in Game 7 at home, 103-84 to the Miami Heat. Jason Tatum, that injury that he suffered to his ankle in the first quarter really hindered him the rest of the game. You saw him playing through a lot of pain. It clearly impacted his performance. 14 points, 11 rebounds, his final stat line. Jaylen Brown was great in the first quarter, not so much for the rest of the game. He finished with 19, just made 1 of 9 three-pointers. Derek White, the hero in Game 6, he also struggled from distance, 2 of 9 from beyond the arc. Jimmy Butler was really good in this game, 28.7 rebounds, 6 assists. Caleb Martin, in my opinion, deserved Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Instead, he finished second to Butler, just 4 votes out of the 9 first-place votes, 26 points, 10 rebounds for Caleb Martin. And then Bam Adebayo, who the Celtics did a pretty good job against defensively in the last couple of games of the series. He finished with 12 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. Again, final score 103-84. The Heat did a much better job moving the basketball around last night. They had 26 assists to the Celtics 18. They also out-rebounded the Celtics. But the difference in this game was the three-point shooting. The Celtics just 21% from distance. The Heat 50% shooting the three ball. When you're talking about this loss, a lot of people are going to blame this loss on Jason Tatum's injury. But you cannot use that as an excuse as to why he lost this game and why he lost this series. The Heat also dealing with some injury concerns. Tyler Hero didn't play at all. Victor Oladipo did not play, obviously. And then Gabe Vincent was dealing with a sprained ankle in Game 6 and 7. So Jason Tatum's injury, yeah, it was certainly a big blow to the Celtics last night, but it's not an excuse as to why you lost this series. Why you lost this series is because you got down 3-0. You got in too big of a hole that quite literally has never been climbed out of in NBA history. 0 and 151 are teams that get down 0-3 in the NBA playoffs. It was too big of a hole to climb out of. Give a lot of credit to Boston for forcing a Game 7, but the reason he lost this series was not because of Jason Tatum's ankle. It was because you got down 0-3. And because you lost that game last night, the offseason is here, and it is going to be an eventful offseason for the Boston Celtics. What are they going to do specifically with Jaylen Brown? We will talk about that on today's show. But they have a very big question, a very big decision to make in Boston, does Brad Stevens. Do you run it back or do you blow it up? What should the Celtics do? Type R for run it back or type B for blow it up? Down in the comment section. I would say somewhere in between. You got to make some changes, but I don't think you should blow it up and get rid of Jaylen Brown and start from scratch here when you're talking about the Celtics' future. Let's talk about Jaylen Brown's future because he is eligible for a 5-year, $295 million contract extension ahead of the last year of his deal. Jaylen Brown said this after the game about extension talks. I expected to win today and move on. That's what my focus was on, and that's what my focus has been on. We failed. I failed. It's hard to think about anything else right now. To be honest, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. My thought process is to take it one day at a time, focus on getting better, focus on what the future holds, and see where we are from there. I guess I don't really know how to answer that. Taking a look at the extension details. So if Jaylen Brown does sign this extension, here's what it looks like year by year. 2024-2025 season, he would make just north of $50 million. The year following that, $54 million. After that, $58 million. After that, $62 million. And after that, he would make $66 million. That is a lot of money. So the question that Boston has to ask themselves right now, that front office, is Jaylen Brown worth it? Because he was great in the regular season. He's been great for the Celtics in his career. But last night, he was terrible and he was not good in these playoffs. And after the Jason Tatum injury, Jaylen Brown really needed to put the team on his back. He failed to do that last night in Game 7. 19 points, just 8 of 23 from the floor, 1 of 9 shooting the three ball. And get this, 8 turnovers for JB last night. But again, he was great in the regular season. He had a career year. This was the best season that we have seen from Jaylen Brown. 26.6 points per game, 3.5 assists per game, 6.9 rebounds per game. He shot 49.1% from the floor. The three-point shooting can certainly improve, just 33.5%. Now, should the Celtics extend Jaylen Brown? Again, 5 years, $295 million. Type E for extend or type D for don't down in the comments section. Jaylen Brown eligible for a max extension because he made an All-NBA team. Should the Celtics give it to him? Let me know down in the comments section. Jason Tatum said this about extending Jaylen Brown. It's extremely important. He's one of the best players in the league. He plays both ends of the ball and is still relatively young, and he's accomplished a lot so far in his career. I think you got to run it back with this group. I do. Now, do you have to add some guys? Yeah. But when you're talking about the Jays, you should absolutely run it back with those 2 stars because this group is more than capable of winning a championship. With this group, you lost in the NBA Finals last year in 6 games. You lost in the Eastern Conference Finals this year in 7 games. We know that this group is talented enough to win a championship. You should not trade Jaylen Brown. You should pay him that contract. I know it's a lot of money, but if you don't give him that, someone else will next summer. You absolutely should run it back with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum because that young core is good enough to win an NBA title. Now let's talk about Joe Mazzulla and his future. Will the Celtics bring back head coach Joe Mazzulla after losing in the Eastern Conference Finals? Kevin O'Connor says, of The Ringer, the Celtics should move on. Kevin O'Connor says the Celtics need a more experienced head coach, saying that Joe Mazzulla's inexperience really showed specifically in the postseason. Here's what Jason Tatum said about his head coach. It was his first year. We got to the conference finals Game 7. I don't think people give him or us enough credit for that. 2 days before the season starts, we find out we're going to have a new head coach. Obviously, we wanted to win the championship. Didn't happen. But I think Joe did a great job. I give Joe my respect, says Jaylen Brown. Tough situation to be in, and he took it head on and ran with it. We had 2 rookie head coaches in the last 2 years. Joe picking up from MA as the interim starting off and then progressing as being the head coach. Just fully took that challenge on and led us to this point. That's a tough position for a guy to be in. It's a tough position for a team to be in. And they are absolutely right, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, to say this was a really tough position for Joe Mazzulla. Just a couple of days before training camp, he finds out that he is going to be the head coach. He ends up earning the permanent job during the All-Star break. And I do believe that the Celtics should bring back Joe Mazzulla. Now, was he perfect? No, he was far from it. But he won 5 straight elimination games as a rookie head coach. I think he deserves some credit for that. Now, does he deserve some criticism as well? Absolutely. The Celtics should not have been an 0-3 hole. There's too much talent on this team for them to have been in that hole, and that's why they didn't come back and win the series. It was too big of a hole to climb out of. But Joe Mazzulla, as a rookie head coach, did a good enough job to get a second year, and I understand that there's this narrative right now amongst NBA head coaches like, man, my job is never safe. But I think Joe Mazzulla deserves to be back. And I think it'd be a lot different if the Celtics had been swept. I think Joe Mazzulla would have lost his job. And on our live stream, on our watch party, I said after Game 4 that Joe Mazzulla won his job back, basically, saved his job by winning Game 4 to avoid the sweep. He then won 2 more games to force a Game 7. It would be a lot different, in my opinion, if a sweep had happened. But Joe Mazzulla, 1 game shy of the NBA Finals. It would make no sense to fire him. I don't think you're going to find an upgrade at this point. Should Boston bring back Joe Mazzulla? Type Y for yes or type in for no down in the comments section. Go down and let me know.